Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, breaking news. As we come on the air, reports of an active shooter on the campus of Emory University in Atlanta. Police racing to the scene. The university on lockdown, an alert telling people to run, hide, and fight. Pierre Thomas has the breaking story. President Trump says he'll meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin very shortly to discuss a possible ceasefire in the war with Ukraine. When and where will this take place? Our Mary Bruce reports from the White House. The Canyon Fire in Southern California exploding in size, burning across 5,000 acres overnight, thousands evacuated from their homes. Multiple fires raging across the state, firefighters battling the flames with little impact.
I'm Trevor Alt in Southern California with a look at what's been torched by the Canyon Fire and the efforts that are still ongoing to get it contained.
Israel says it will take control of Gaza City, triggering an outcry from around the world. An estimated 1 million people, half of Gaza's population, could be forced to relocate. Ian Pannell has reaction on the ground from Tel Aviv. OpenAI unveils GPT-5, billed as the fastest, smartest, and most reliable ChatGPT model yet, said to have PhD-level smarts. What makes it so much better than its predecessors? And The Gilded Age, headed for a massive season finale this weekend. Prime's Linsey Davis sat down with star Danae Benson for more on the big conclusion and what comes next for the show.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rhiannon Alley in for Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We do have breaking news as we come on the air. An active shooter on the campus of Emory University in Atlanta. The campus is on lockdown, as Emory tweeted just a short time ago. Run, hide, fight. You can see a swarm of police response. Sources telling ABC News local police encountered the person they believed to be the possible shooter before an exchange of gunfire. Let's get straight to our Pierre Thomas with what we now know.
Tonight, dozens of police and SWAT teams swarming the scene near Emory University in Atlanta after reports of an active shooter. Reports of multiple shots fired just after 5 p.m.
Suddenly I got email and the message from Emory campus saying that there's an active shooter right up at Emory Point CDS, and that is actually where I live.
University officials posting an urgent warning to students: run, hide, fight. Residents in the vicinity told to stay indoors and to lock their doors. The campus not far from CDC headquarters. Sources tell ABC News local police encountered what they believed was an armed suspect and attempted to engage the person exchanging gunfire.
There's nothing I can do except for feeling sad or scared.
You can see how scared everyone in that video looks. Let's bring in Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas. Pierre, what is the latest information you are learning from your sources?
Well, the FBI is offering assistance, and the White House says that it is monitoring the situation. And we've just been told that the shelter in place on campus has been lifted and that the suspect is dead. Rhiannon?
All right, Pierre Thomas, thank you. We know you'll continue to monitor this breaking story, and we'll bring it to you as we get updates. We want to turn now to Montana, where a week-long manhunt has finally come to an end. Authorities have announced they have captured the former Army soldier accused of gunning down 4 people at a bar. Here's Melissa Don with what we're learning tonight.
Exactly 1 week after 4 people were shot to death in a Montana bar, setting off a massive manhunt. Tonight, authorities announcing the suspect is in custody. Police say a surveillance camera captured 45-year-old Michael Brown, an Iraq War veteran, fleeing the Owl Bar in the town of Anaconda last Friday, where he allegedly killed a bartender and 3 customers.
We have a visual of someone on Ash Street.
He is believed to be armed and extremely dangerous.
For days, search teams scoured this mountain area while police urged residents to stay inside and lock their doors.
By all indications, this is an unstable individual who walked in and murdered 4 people in cold blood for no reason whatsoever.
The suspect lived next to the Owl Bar, and police say he was known to law enforcement with a drug history. Rhiannon?
Melissa Don, thank you for that. New tonight, President Trump has announced he will meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin next week in Alaska. That news comes after the president set today as a deadline for Putin to agree to a ceasefire with Ukraine. Here's Chief White House Correspondent Mary Bruce.
Tonight, President Trump announcing a meeting between him and Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss ending the war in Ukraine is a go.
We're going to have a meeting with Russia.
The president saying that meeting will happen in Alaska next Friday. Trump had given Russia until today to stop the fighting or face additional sanctions, but the fighting has only intensified. And instead of being slapped with sanctions, Putin now preparing to sit down with Trump. The president had been pushing for the meeting to also include Ukrainian President Zelensky, but now moving forward with just Putin.
President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace. Now, President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done.
As for what's on the table, Trump suggesting a deal could involve some exchange of territory.
We're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
The big question tonight, the president asked if this meeting is Russia's last chance to achieve peace.
I don't like using the term last chance. I think my instinct really tells me that we have a shot at it.
Let's bring in Mary Bruce at the White House. And Mary, the president making news on another front regarding drug cartels. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, Rhiannon, this would be an aggressive step in the Trump administration's fight against the drug cartels. The president ordering the Pentagon to prepare options to use military force against some drug cartels in Latin America that have been deemed to be terrorist organizations. Now, one official telling us nothing is imminent on this, and it would certainly raise a host of legal questions. Rhiannon.
We'll see what happens. Mary Bruce, thank you for that. Next tonight, to the fast-moving fires out west. Thousands of families forced out of their homes in the Los Angeles area after the Canyon fire exploded in size in just a matter of hours. Tonight, flames just 25% contained. And this silver lining emerging. Fire commanders say not a single home has been lost so far, despite those flames coming dangerously close. Smoke from California making it several hundred miles away, where it loomed behind the Las Vegas skyline this morning at sunrise. And in Colorado, several fires are still burning there, as the Meeker fire in the northwest part of the state shut down a highway. All of this as over 50 million Americans are on alert for dangerous heat from the southwest to the Midwest. The forecast coming in just a moment, but first, ABC's Trevor Ault reports from California.
Tonight, the West is a tinderbox with multiple wildfires raging out of control. The Canyon fire burning north of LA. At one point Thursday, torching a football field every 2 seconds. Overnight, hundreds of firefighters tried to take advantage of cooler temperatures, digging fire lines amid the flames, using everything from bulldozers to chainsaws to clear brush. But by daybreak, the Canyon fire was still out of control.
More than 10,000 people are under evacuation orders here, and you can see why. Look at this gap through the tree line in the front yard. That hilltop is on fire.
It's now scorched more than 8 square miles and counting. In Colorado, the Lee Fire and the Elk Fire, scorching more than 117 square miles of land combined. Todd Morris has lived and raised animals there for more than 50 years.
It's devastating. The country that we grew up in is gone.
The fires have been fueled by the hottest temperatures of the season so far, from California to Arizona.
What's your name?
Our Phoenix affiliate out with first responders treating this person in 118-degree heat.
Even an hour from now, he would have had a very different outcome. We probably would have been working a cardiac arrest at that point.
And that extreme heat is fueling powerful storms in the plains. More storms in the forecast tonight.
Trevor Ault is joining us now. And Trevor, we can clearly see the devastation behind you. Tell us more about what you've seen.
Well, Rhiannon, as some of the flames have been able to shift, we can now get a look at least a little bit of the damage. I mean, you see this structure, this building here, which was destroyed. I'm told that this was largely built with wood, went up in all of these flames, and this got within about 20 feet of the house here, according to the property owner. He said that if it had been windy, his house likely would have burnt down too. And the thing is tonight, Rhiannon, the Canyon fire responsible for this is still not yet contained. Rhiannon.
We're glad that a homeowner is okay, Trevor. Thank you. And our Lee Goldberg is tracking the heat and fire danger. Hey, Lee, what can you tell us?
All right, Rhiannon, well, the heat's definitely expanding, but boy, it's still pulsating in the southwest as well. You know, we still have excessive heat warnings, and that's going to be extended into early next week. It may not be to the levels of all-time August records that we saw in Phoenix yesterday, but we're still headed toward 110 over the next few days. To the north, the fire danger continues in the Great Basin. So the heat expands to the Midwest all the way into the plains. I mean, you could see it feel like readings over 100 from Dallas to Kansas City up to about Peoria. And then by the end of the weekend, it's making its way into the northeast. So record highs a possibility in Buffalo and Burlington, Vermont. And we're set here for our third heat wave of the season here in New York City. The signal is hot over the next week. Eastern two-thirds of the country, it looks like it's above normal for next week's temperatures, more comfortable on the immediate west coast. On the edge of that heat dome, it's storms. We start out with storms tonight from Sioux Falls to Minneapolis, Duluth, some strong storms. And then tomorrow, it's Des Moines over to Milwaukee and Green Bay, looking for damaging winds, hail, even a brief tornado there. And then it'll be heat talk all through next week. Rhiannon?
August not taking it easy, honestly. Thank you. Overseas tonight, Israel's security cabinet approving a plan to take control of Gaza's most populated area, Gaza City, and relocate an estimated 1 million Palestinians. The major escalation is sparking criticism from hostage families and European allies. Even Israel's own military is raising concerns. Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Israel.
Tonight, in a major escalation sparking global condemnation, the Israeli Security Cabinet approving plans to seize control of Gaza City, where Hamas may be holding some of the remaining 50 hostages, only 20 still believed to be alive.
We don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter.
The militants condemning Israel's announcement. An estimated 1 million people, half of Gaza's entire population, may be forced to relocate. Despite new aid airdrops, humanitarian groups saying Gaza's hunger crisis is worsening. Horrifying new video out of Gaza City showing a balcony collapsing as a crowd desperately tried to reach an aid parachute that got caught. We met one group of Palestinians approved to leave Gaza for urgent medical treatment in Jordan. Among them, children, some hit by shrapnel from the shelling, suffering from infected wounds. Noor's 8-month-old daughter Hannah needs a heart operation. She weighs less than 9 pounds. We're dying 1,000 deaths a day, she says, and she fears once her little girl recovers, they'll be sent back into Gaza, into a war that looks set to get even worse.
Rhiannon, Prime Minister Netanyahu saying he wants to free Gaza from Hamas and get all the hostages out. But after 22 months of war, Israel has failed to completely do either. Now the UN warning that this new plan will only increase the killing, the suffering and the devastation. Rhiannon?
Ian Pannell, thank you. Joining us now, we are going to glean insights into Israel's plan to control Gaza from Israel's former ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren. Ambassador Oren, it is so great to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you, Anna.
Okay, let's jump right in. In terms of Israel's security, what are the risks and what are the benefits of this plan as you see them?
Well, the risks are manifold. Going into Gaza, it's densely populated, densely built up, with dozens and dozens of miles beneath the city. And in those tunnels are 20 living Israeli hostages, to the best of our knowledge, 30 hostages that are no longer living. So going into this city is going to be a nightmare for any infantry. Many years in the infantry, and I'll tell you, this is the last place that anybody in the infantry wants to be. The benefits, what's the benefit? The benefits can only be that Israel can finally perhaps secure the release of these hostages, can finally defeat Hamas, can finally liberate Gaza from Hamas, and begin the process together with Arab allies, with the United States, perhaps other countries, building the process of rebuilding Gaza into a flourishing, peaceful area of the Middle East.
So we know Israel's security cabinet already approved the plan. What about everyone else? Is there a broad support for it in the Knesset, in the IDF, and within the Israeli population?
Well, I'd say 2 out of 3 is not in favor. Okay, I think that the government and the Knesset, of course, the majority is from the government, and that's going to be supportive of this operation. The IDF has expressed severe reservations about the operation, whether it's costly. What's going to be the end of the operation? Will Israel end up being the occupier of Gaza again and be involved in a prolonged war of attrition? Israel does not do well with wars of attrition. And roughly 74% of the Israeli population, according to the most recent poll, is not in favor of this operation. And that's an interesting dynamic, because they usually in Israel, we go to war on the basis of a consensual approval of the population. It's interesting. The prime minister is not the commander in chief. The government is, the entire government. So going to war, even going into a major operation like this, involves a certain amount of consensus. Hamas has consistently walked away from the ceasefire talks. And that even if there were a ceasefire, Hamas is not going to give us back all of those hostages. That Hamas is, they may be evil, but they're not stupid. And they're going to keep a couple of hostages always for safekeeping to ensure that Israel doesn't come back after the ceasefire and proceed to try to uproot Hamas once again.
And knowing all that you know with your expertise, how do you feel about this plan? Do you think it's a good idea?
I have deep reservations about it. I understand that sometimes when you're sitting in the prime minister's seat, you see things that other people don't see. You have a 360-degree view. The prime minister is thinking about how this battle will be received by others in the Middle East, particularly our enemies. If we're perceived as losing to Hamas, what will that mean for Israel's security? What will it mean for the ability to expand the Abraham Accords to other Arab countries? People make peace with Israel because it's a strong country, not because it's a weak country. And what will it mean for our relationship with the United States? I think it's fair to say that the President of the United States likes winners. And to be perceived as a winner is a strategic asset here, not just a political whim. So that I'm sure the Prime Minister is looking at that as well. But we've all known people who have served in this war for hundreds of days. We've known people who have died in this war, been grievously wounded in this war. We see the families of the hostages suffering unspeakably. And it's a nightmarish situation.
In the past, you've said you do not believe Israel has committed any war crimes in Gaza. Do you still believe that?
I do. I don't think it's deliberate war crimes. This is war, and I've been in war more than once, and I'll tell you, many mistakes happen, particularly in a war like this, which is dense urban warfare, and you're dealing with an enemy which is deeply embedded behind civilian population. In this case, not just behind the civilian population, but beneath a population, again, with hundreds of miles of tunnels. It's absolutely inconceivable. There's no parallel like this in history. And so, yes, the mistakes happen. Israelis are human beings, and they make mistakes, and sometimes they make mistakes that can be actionable.
You've studied this conflict almost as much as anyone. What do you wish would happen here?
Well, my greatest wish would be the Hamas would just say, okay, we've had enough. We're giving it up.
Ambassador Oren, thank you so much for shedding some light on this. As you mentioned, such a complex issue. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Fiona.
Federal prosecutors have subpoenaed New York Attorney General Letitia James. Sources tell ABC News it has to do with her office's civil fraud case against President Trump. Here's Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, sources tell ABC News the Justice Department is investigating New York Attorney General Letitia James, opening a new front in the retribution battle President Trump promised to wage against perceived adversaries.
Letitia James is she's a disgrace to our country and to the state of New York.
This morning, Mr. Trump will take the stand.
James has been a target of Trump since she won a civil fraud case that held Trump liable for flagrantly overvaluing his golf courses, buildings, and Trump Tower apartment. The judge imposed a nearly $500 million penalty that Trump is now appealing.
He engaged in this massive amount of fraud, and it wasn't just a simple mistake, a slight oversight. The variations were wildly exaggerated, and the extent of the fraud was staggering.
Tonight, sources say federal prosecutors in Albany have now issued subpoenas as part of an investigation into whether James violated Trump's civil rights.
She only spends her time going after Trump. Let's get Trump. It's good for my election. Let's get Trump.
A spokesperson for James says Trump is weaponizing the justice system. In just the last week, the administration launched an inquiry into former special counsel Jack Smith, who brought 2 since-dismissed prosecutions against Trump, and the FBI ousted top officials involved in investigations of Trump and his allies.
Now to the frightening incident on the world's largest cruise ship when a piece of a massive waterslide broke off, injuring a passenger inside. And tonight, what we're hearing from witnesses who watched it all unfold. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, a terrifying scene aboard the world's largest cruise ship.
Stop the slide!
A piece of acrylic glass breaking off as a guest went down the frightening boat water slide in Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Sea.
Oh my God.
That adult passenger injured, a cascade of water streaming down to the deck below.
All of a sudden, people start screaming, yelling, freaking out. We see the water slide, and there's just water gushing out of a huge hole out of the back of it.
Maddie Adams from North Carolina witnessing the accident, telling ABC News she later saw a man bleeding in a wheelchair.
Employees were trying to shield him with towels. There's like plexiglass, acrylic glass from the slide on the deck below. It's honestly a miracle that nobody was severely injured.
That vessel traveling between the U.S. Virgin Islands and the Bahamas when the incident took place Thursday. That water slide, the tallest drop slide at sea, with riders descending nearly 50 vertical feet. In a statement, Royal Caribbean saying its team provided medical care to the injured guest, who is in stable condition, and that the water slide is now closed pending an investigation. Rhiannon, the icon of the seas, had its maiden voyage in January of last year. It's due back at the port of Miami tomorrow. Rhiannon?
Scary stuff. Morgan Norwood, thank you. Jim Lovell, the commander of the miraculous Apollo 13 mission that inspired the world, has passed away. The American hero was memorably played by Tom Hanks in the 1995 film Apollo 13.
What did you do? Nothing. I stirred the tanks. Whoa. Hey.
That's the movie, and here's the actual call to NASA Space Command back in 1970.
Say again.
Houston, we've had a problem.
His calm, under-pressure demeanor helped his crew return safely to Earth. He would go on to fly 3 more times to space. As the pilot of Apollo 8 in 1968, he became the first astronaut to pilot a spacecraft that orbited the moon. His crew was also the first to see the far side of the moon and an Earthrise. Jim Lovell, nicknamed Smilin' Jim by his fellow astronauts, was 97. Coming up, OpenAI just launched its most advanced artificial intelligence model yet, and it's now available for everyone for free. So how many people use AI, and what's the technology worth? We take a look by the numbers. And amid the government's ban on transgender people serving in the military, why the Air Force has now rescinded retirement benefits from some long-serving trans members. Plus, just how pure is that bottle of water with a premium price tag? Why some iconic brands are now accused of illicitly treating their water. Welcome back. OpenAI says it has ushered in a new era of artificial intelligence, saying its new GPT-5 model is like having a PhD in your pocket. Let's take a look at OpenAI, its new model, and its booming popularity by the numbers. GPT-5 is billed as the fastest, smartest, and most reliable model yet. It is free for all users, though unlimited access costs as much as $200 a month. GPT-5 has 4 personalities other than the default that users can elect to choose: cynic, robot, listener, and nerd. The company has come a long way since starting in 2015 as a nonprofit research lab. OpenAI says it now has roughly 700 million weekly active users, and the company is now valued at $300 billion. Earlier this week, OpenAI announced it was making ChatGPT available to the entire federal executive branch workforce at $1 per agency. This comes after OpenAI and 2 of its competitors, Google's Gemini and Anthropic's Claude, were added this week to a list of government-approved AI vendors. Joining us now for more on this is Sabrina Ortiz, ZDNet's senior AI reporter. Thank you so much for being here with us. Okay, so you heard us say that it's being billed as having a PhD in your pocket. You've tried it. What do you think?
Well, all of these models are so incredibly capable. So I would say that it is like having an infinite amount of resources in your pocket. And this is actually OpenAI's most capable model yet in all fronts, whether that's writing, whether it's coding. So it really is an impressive model.
So a lot of people already using ChatGPT. How does it change what's already been there?
Yeah, so basically the biggest appeal here is that this model combines both the reasoning capabilities, and what reasoning models are really just like, if I asked you to, think before you speak and you really think of an answer as a higher quality, that's what these reasoning models do. They sit there with your prompt and they think through the problem a little bit longer and they give you a higher quality response. And then it combines it with your just run-of-the-mill GPT models, which are great for everyday tasks, for are simple and can be quicker. Takes both of them, meshes them into one model, which is GPT-5, and then it has a router that knows, hey, based on your query, I think we should use a reasoning model, or I think we should use this model, which eliminates the guesswork on your end and just makes it an overall faster and better, higher quality experience.
And we mentioned it's free for now. Who can access this and how do they do it?
Everyone can access it, which is amazing. This is very unique for OpenAI. All you need to do is be logged in. So creating an account is free. There's a lot of different ways to do it super easily, like using your Google account or your Microsoft account. Once you're logged in, it will automatically be there. It's replacing all of the other models on the free tier. So you just log in, you'll see GPT-5 in the corner, and you're ready to get started.
You mentioned it can reason. You were just talking about that. What exactly does that mean? Like, break that down on like a really simple level for me. How does it reason?
Simple definition is it just thinks a little bit longer than it typically would.
But it's still fast. You said it's still going to give you a really fast answer.
Yeah, that's what's amazing. These reasoning models, when they first came out, you would sit there and be like, oh, well, this is taking forever. And then now even Sam Altman was saying in one of the press briefings that he'll sit there and he'll put it into the reasoning model and then be like, wait, did it actually reason? It did this so quickly. So it is really impressive that they're getting faster, but you can notice a difference when you're doing a reasoning model and then the regular, because it still takes a little bit more of a beat.
Okay, it does take a little bit longer. So how does it compare to ChatGPT's competitors like Google and Anthropic?
Yeah, so ChatGPT has a bunch of different advantages, with the biggest one being that I think most people associate chatbot with ChatGPT. All of the competitors are really in a race with each other. It won't be very long until some of these other models are just as capable. I would say the biggest appeal is just if you're familiar with it, with the AI race starting, they've been at the lead and at the forefront to begin with. People are familiar, people already use it. So that's the biggest real advantage right now.
We mentioned the different modes it has, the default, but then also the cynic, the robot, the nerd. What does that mean? Like, what are the differences here?
Yeah, those different personalities are things you're able to tweak in custom instructions, which is just where you get to tell ChatGPT, hey, I want you to give me a response, but I want it to fit this specific criteria. So now, in addition to being able to tell it things that you want it to keep in mind, you get to pick a personality, which is really just a matter of preference. I don't know if you've ever used it, and it has like really exciting tone and a bunch of emojis, and you're like, okay, this is too much. Like, I asked about the weather. I don't need you to be this excited. So now you can tone it down, right? You can say, hey, I actually want you to be a bit more professional or a little cynical if you're sarcastic.
That's interesting. You can choose what mode you want your computer to talk to you in. But what else are we not talking about in regards to this that you find fascinating?
My favorite feature is advanced voice mode, which now they're calling ChatGPT voice. And that's really just if you've ever used Siri or Alexa, but 10 times better. Just you could talk to it conversationally and it will answer you conversationally. And then I think there's so many applications for this, but it was typically limited to all paid subscribers. And now they announced it yesterday as part, but it got buried in all the news that if you are also a free user, now you could access it. Of course, there's smaller limits compared to the paid tiers, but I love that feature. I'm a Plus user, so I've always had access to it. And now I'm like, wait, all the free users get access to it too. And I'm hoping people take advantage.
We're out of time, but just with one word, what is your favorite thing to use this for? Like travel or what?
Cooking.
Cooking. Okay. Thank you so much. I've never used it for cooking. I'll have to try it. Sabrina Ortiz, this was very insightful.
Thank you so much, Rhiannon.
Coming up, President Trump is removing his own pick for IRS commissioner just 2 months after his Senate confirmation. We'll tell you why. But first, in tonight's Prime Focus, they've dreamed of serving in the Air Force, but after graduating from the academy and passing all the physical tests for service, the White House says they cannot serve. Our Maggie Rulli has their story.
And after the recent Supreme Court decision, where does that dream stand?
I still want to do it. If a decision came down today that, I could join the Air Force, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Welcome back. Shortly after taking office, President Trump signed an executive order banning transgender individuals from serving in the U.S. military. All current transgender service members were given the opportunity to voluntarily separate and receive twice the separation benefit amount than if they were separated involuntarily. The Air Force approved the applications of its transgender service members who had served between 18 and 20 years and wanted to receive the full retirement benefit because they were close enough to the 20-year threshold to receive those benefits. About a dozen who had served between 15 and 18 years in the Air Force also applied and were initially told they too could receive the full retirement benefit, only to have the Air Force yesterday rescind the offer. One transgender service member telling us it was a betrayal For our prime focus tonight, we have the unique opportunity to meet a transgender service member affected by President Trump's initial ban. Our Maggie Rulli sat down with Hunter Marquez, a recent graduate of the Air Force Academy, who began their transition at the end of their freshman year, satisfying all requirements since President Biden repealed Trump's first transgender ban. But now, in 2025, Hunter finds they're in limbo. They and many others once again prevented from serving their country.
Class of 2025, dismissed!
Hunter Marquez had been dreaming of this moment since middle school. The moment they would graduate as a second lieutenant in the Air Force.
I grew up with a family that just loved this country, and I found my calling with the military.
Hunter Taylor Marquez.
After 4 years of training at the Air Force Academy in Colorado, Hunter was selected to become a combat systems officer. But an executive order banning transgender service members would put that dream on hold.
Because at the end, when we all got to throw our hats in the air and everyone got to put on their second lieutenant shoulder boards, and I'd keep my cadet ones on because I would not be a second lieutenant. So it was very disheartening because I knew, all of my friends, all of the people I'd known these past 4 years have a guaranteed job. And now I'm just here with no idea what I'm going to do next.
If you knew what you had to go through, would you still have made the choice to transition?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. I wouldn't change anything about what I've done these past 4 years because at the end of the day, these people that I've met here, the officers and the faculty, they've changed my life for the better.
The Pentagon estimates more than 4,200, or about 1 in 500, active Guard and Reserve service members are diagnosed by military doctors with gender dysphoria, which is the military's metric for tracking the number of transgender troops. Advocacy groups have put the actual number of trans service members in those units much higher, at around 15,000 out of the 2.1 million. 3 months before Hunter was set to graduate, President Trump signed Executive Order 14183.
To ensure that we have the most lethal fighting force in the world, we will get transgender ideology the hell out of our military. It's going to be gone.
The executive order stated that expressing a false gender identity divergent from an individual's sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service. The order further argued that receiving gender-affirming medical care is one of the conditions that is physically and mentally incompatible with active duty. That meant Hunter, who had transitioned a few years ago, could no longer go into military service when they graduated. Hunter's dream now caught up in a political firestorm.
What assessment did the Department of Defense conduct prior to implementation to evaluate the impact that this policy would have on our national security?
We did extensive analysis, Senator, and we agree with the assessment of the executive order that was issued by the White House that there are mental health issues associated with gender dysphoria that complicate military service and readiness, and as a result, we made the decision.
Trans people have a history of contention in the military. Until 2016, people who were transgender could be dismissed because of their gender identity. President Obama changed that policy, allowing trans service members to openly serve. Trump repealed this policy in 2018, meaning once again trans soldiers were banned. Then President Biden repealed this in 2021. Trump then reinstated the ban this year.
There's never been any evidence found that gay or transgender service members present any problems to unit cohesion or readiness, and that the evidence finds the opposite, that the prohibitions against trans people are what harm readiness and cohesion because they undermine trust.
Are there already checks and balances in place within the military to make sure people are mentally and physically well to serve?
Yeah, that's an important point. The military screens their personnel at all levels, upon session or commission, recruitment, and then for retention purposes, deployment to combat zones.
Hunter began transitioning at the end of their freshman year at the Air Force Academy. They would now have to complete the more demanding male physical fitness test.
And did you pass everything, all the physical exams, all the tests, everything?
Yes, yes I did. I remember talking to my commander about it because I was nervous, but I got a better score than I expected. And I remember going to his office and I was like, "Sir, you wouldn't guess what happened. This is my score." And he celebrated with me.
Hunter tells us they followed all the rules that were in effect at the time in order to graduate, only to have those rules change in February when the Department of Defense released a memo stating that they would begin discharging trans service members.
Do you remember the moment you found out?
Yeah, I was in my room hanging out with a friend, and I was looking at the court cases that had been coming down, and I refreshed the page and the official memo was posted, and I broke down crying because I couldn't believe that I'd made it up to this point just to lose it.
Almost immediately, there were legal challenges. In March, a federal court blocked the ban. Then in May, the Supreme Court overruled and said the ban could remain in place while lawsuits made their way through the lower courts. Hunter signed their name onto one of those lawsuits.
I just saw that as my only option because I and thousands of others deserve the right to serve in the military. There's nothing that says we can't perform our duties, that we're less than just because of our gender identity. And I didn't want this to be happening to anybody else. And so it just felt like my only option. I had to fight this, not for myself, but for the thousands of others and for the thousands to come.
Supporters of the ban say the logistics of incorporating trans service members in a safe and effective way will be too difficult and expensive, and their medical care will make them unfit to serve.
What type of medical care does the military provide in general and for other people that have medical issues?
Well, the military has a storied healthcare system of its own. The RAND Corporation did a study on this and found that it would be just a smattering of people who are likely to use the more expensive healthcare required, and that the overall impact on the military's healthcare budget would be an increase of 0.1% of the military healthcare budget.
For Hunter, the debate has curtailed their once certain future. A normal post-grad trip around Europe has turned into a soul-searching moment.
But I'm curious, I think if someone says, well, we just don't want someone to go public with their preferred gender identity, can't they just serve without making it a deal? What would you say to that?
I would say the reason why you lead is because of the people. And that's something we say a lot in the military. Mission first, people always. And how can you be expected to lead a mission if you don't know your people?
Although their dream is deferred, they tell us their calling is still with the military.
And after the recent Supreme Court decision, where does that dream stand?
I still want to do it. If a decision came down today that, I could join the Air Force, I would take that in a heartbeat. I'd drop everything here in Europe and go. But, I mean, in the end, the dream is always to be in the military.
Our thanks to Maggie Ruley for that. Coming up, the police chase and its unceremonious end, while you may want to make sure you have a full tank of gas. And our Linsey Davis goes one-on-one with Gilded Age star Danae Benton. What to expect ahead of a blockbuster season finale this weekend. The bottled water brands embroiled in a scandal over their water's purity. How a patient with ALS can control an iPad with his thoughts. And if you're fleeing police on a motorcycle, best not to run out of gas. Those stories and more in tonight's Rundown. A man on a motorcycle was arrested yesterday after allegedly fleeing police while riding a vehicle without registration on an Illinois highway. Dashcam video shared by law enforcement officials shows the motorcycle driving in front of a deputy with sirens flashing. But as they approach an intersection, the motorcycle runs out of gas and the biker slows before coming to a complete stop. The man tries to keep moving his bike with his feet before he's tackled by police. The suspect was taken into custody for felony warrants, including fleeing and eluding law enforcement and for possession of a stolen motorcycle. France's multi-billion-euro mineral water companies are under a spotlight due to growing concerns about the industry's water purity standards. The problem is that under EU law, natural mineral water is supposed to be unaltered between the underground source and the bottle. But companies like Perrier, owned by Nestle, and Evian admit to filtering the water, which has consumers asking why they're paying a premium price for it. At a Senate hearing, Nestle CEO admitted to Perrier using methods French officials said are prohibited to treat its water. And according to the BBC, that results from testing at its historic water source recommended against the brand keeping its natural mineral water label. The government maintains there was never a threat to public health from any of the brands. An extremely lucky gambler hit 389 jackpots in one day at a casino in Tampa, Florida, winning more than $1.8 million. The Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino announced Tuesday that a guest saw big wins throughout the day on several popular slot machines, noting it was one of the most successful one-day runs ever recorded at the casino. Heads up, stargazers, August's full sturgeon moon will be on display this weekend, a reference to the magnificent fish that are often caught around the same time that this moon rises. The spectacular lunar light show will leap above the southeastern horizon at sunset Saturday across the country and will still appear full for a night or two after that. Bed Bath & Beyond opened its first new location today after the home goods chain went bankrupt in 2023. This time around, the store has a new name, Bed Bath & Beyond Home, and marks a fresh start for the brand. This first location is in Nashville, Tennessee, and the company says dozens more stores may potentially be on the way. A patient with ALS has become the first person in the world to control an iPad entirely with his thoughts, according to neurotech company Synchron. Mark Jackson, who lives in Western Pennsylvania, can control the product without using his hands or voice commands. Instead, an implantable brain-computer interface translates his thoughts into actions. Now Jackson says he's able to watch TV shows, listen to audiobooks, use social media, and send text messages to his kids. It's the show that's all the rage on HBO Max right now. The Gilded Age is headed for a massive season finale. Our Linsey Davis caught up with star Denée Benton for more on the big conclusion and what comes next for the show.
From corset-wearing chaos to subtle social rebellion, the third season of The Gilded Age has become appointment television. And actress and recognized Broadway star Denée Benton is all at the center of it and stepping even more fully into herself in her role as the fearless Peggy Scott. Let's take a look.
The main reason I'm here is because my doctor ordered me to convalesce by the sea. I suppose I'd have to consult with him about when I can go home.
Oh, I know him well. And I would guess he'll find that you are healed.
Oh, you're right.
Denée Benton, so kind of you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So give us a sense of what it's like to step back in this historical time, this time of opulence. It's very high society, and to do so as a Black actress in particular.
I mean, it's the highlight of my career so far, to be honest. I think to get to play a character like Peggy, who I feel walks a tightrope so similar to the one that I even feel I walk today, and the age and our country I was born into. But to get to watch Peggy do it at a time that no one expected her to be who we saw on screen has been really special.
And your character, Peggy, really has gone through a lot of evolution, growth. What would you say has been the most surprising direction that your character has gone in this most recent season?
I think the most surprising thing we see Peggy do is she's left her job at the Globe, you know, her real sort of sturdy position, and has really taken herself on as a freelance creative writer at a time where women, period, weren't really working in a professional lane. And Peggy kind of gets to represent our are sort of mid-level professional in a way that we don't really get to see a lot of the women in the show do.
What do you think it is about this season, season 3 in particular? Because you've always had your loyal fans, but now you've picked up even more people who are like, have to see this show.
I think what's special is it's really been word of mouth. You know, season 1, we had the pandemic, so we couldn't do press at the same level. Season 2 was the strike, and something happened between season 2 and season 3 where fans really caught hold of the story and told each other about it, and now have come back and brought people with them.
People know you from Eliza in Hamilton, Cinderella, and Into the Woods. How do you go about, and now Peggy obviously on the screen, how do you go about choosing which roles you want to take and say, yes, that's me?
It's funny, as an actor, we have so much less power than people think. It really is. You show up to the opportunities, and I think that's what feels sort of cosmic and beautiful about it all, because these are the roles that chose me back, and I've gotten to really carve out a path and walk in the steps of some of the incredible women I get to work with, of really these Black ingenues and leading ladies, that the big surprise of Peggy coming from this elite family is something that, Cinderella and Eliza weren't originally written to look like me, but Peggy was, and that is exciting.
Obviously, you mentioned some of the women you get to work alongside, Felicia Rashad, Audra McDonald. Have they shared any advice with you that you felt was like, I needed to know that earlier in my career?
I mean, they really just speak so much life into you. They really are, they're craftswomen. And so you can just geek out about the work with them in a way that feels so equalizing. And it's as much acting advice as you want to ask for it.
Of course, the season finale is coming up this weekend. Is it all that it's been built up to be? Can you give any sense, any teasers of what people might be able to expect?
Sonia and Julian they've got something for you. Okay. I mean, what he does so well is blowing people's minds at the end of a season, and with the surprises and shocks. I think that it's going to be viral, tweet-worthy.
Danae Benton, we thank you so much for coming on the show. Season 3 finale of The Gilded Age will make its global debut this weekend, August 10th on HBO and streaming on HBO Max. You will not want to miss it. Danae says you got to see it, what they have in store for us.
That's our show for this hour. I'm Rhiannon Alley. You can stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks for streaming with us. Have a great weekend.